How is your anti-capitalist tear across the podcast sphere going?
It's going pretty well. I definitely got a lot of people messaging me when I did that tweet, and my issue is like I've never really had to keep a calendar, and so there have been a few kind of mishaps along the way, but like I've just forgotten about stuff, but I'm trying to be better about that.
That'll happen.
Yeah, but you have the complete free reign of Twitter to do whatever you want, whenever you want now.
That's true. That's true.
Like you can just get it out.
Yeah, right. Well, yeah, to a fault.
Right. I guess that is sort of a curse, but that's the curse of today, isn't it? People can just mouth vomit whenever they feel.
Absolutely. There's way too much goddamn self-expression going on. And I'm part of the disease.
So originally, my friend Mike here, he tagged me and he actually had 3 topics he wanted to discuss. So I thought we could start with those. First, he wanted to talk about your favorite action movies, which I think is a great topic because everyone wants to know what Max Collins thinks about the action cinema genre.
Yeah, sure. That's a good question.
Yeah.
At the risk of sounding, like an elitist, it's not my go-to genre, but I do. I remember watching the movie Daylight with I think it's Sylvester Stallone.
Yep, it's Stallone. Yeah,
in the theater, and I found it really funny, and I think I actually saw it with my dad. When did that come out? Like early 90s or something?
I'm gonna say like 96. I feel 96. I could look it up, but I'm pretty sure 96, 7-ish.
Okay. I'm going to go with Daylight probably because it's the first thing that leaps to mind, and it sort of worked on me more like a comedy, but it's nevertheless, an action movie. And I
haven't seen that since it came out. That's the one where they're trapped in the subway tunnel.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And just I think there were just a lot of like really funny one-liners and stuff. I'm trying to think of an earnest answer for you.
If you don't have one, that's okay too.
Yeah, I don't have one at the moment. I mean, I do enjoy like the, Die Hards and shit like that.
Sure.
Yeah, but let's go with Daylight.
Daylight's a good answer.
Yeah.
It's a good answer. It's also, I guess that's also proof that you're probably not watching a lot of stuff in the last 20 years in the action movie wise.
Yeah, no, I'm not watching a lot of stuff in the last 20 years in general, probably. I rewatched The Silence of the Lambs last night and was just fucking blown away that such perfections, like it's like a miracle that movie. It's so good.
Yeah.
That's probably over 20 years old, right?
Oh, yes.
Silence of the Lambs is what, 95, Mike? I don't know why I expect you to know this.
I don't know why you expect me to know that either.
I should know it more than you, but yeah.
Range.
Yeah, it's somewhere in there. Definitely a great action movie too. But
yes.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I was gonna say is I was talking to Mike before we started, and the one movie that I saw you tweet about is actually my favorite animated movie of all time, which was Secret of Nim.
Oh yeah,
and you've enlightened me to let me know that it's about MK Ultra, which I never knew. This is like shocking to me.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, they're injecting these rats with this psychedelic formula that makes them lose their minds and stuff. It's a very dark, very sinister film, and I don't know. It's really good. And just the animation is so beautiful and like it's all hand done, or at least mostly. I would imagine.
It's actually scary too. Like even as an adult, I still kind of creeped out by the owl.
Oh, it's terrifying. It's terrifying. Yeah.
But now knowing it's a sidequel to MK Ultra, like it's an offshoot of the franchise of MK Ultra.
It's in the CIA cinematic universe.
100%. I don't know if it is actually, because it's more of an expose, but yeah. I would imagine the CIA probably tried with like medium effort to stifle its release.
That or flip some messages
now,
in.
I've never seen it, but there is a sequel. There is a Secret of Nim 2. I have no clue how deep it goes. But,
really?
Yeah. So if you ever watch that, let me know. I guess I could too.
And it's by Don Bluth?
No, I'm pretty sure it's just like a cash grab straight to video.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it probably doesn't have the substance, or it could go even deeper, or they could go, it's one or two ways. It's either completely hollow or the sequel goes.
There's only one way to find out.
Like Alex Jones' Rabbit Hole or something like that,
Yeah,
Secret of Nim
totally.
too. Yeah.
No, that's a great movie. We've been watching, I have 2 kids, and we've been doing a bunch of Don Bluth, and then like there's the Miyazaki movies, and then there's the like the G Kids movies, like his production house, that it's kind of like a Warhol type thing where he has directors who make movies. I mean, like hundreds of them, and they kind of have his stamp on it, and they're all so good. So that's what we do for our movie nights over here.
That's cool. Yeah, no action movies. It's probably for the guests,
Probably for the best. Yeah.
Yeah. I was exposed at a young age, and I think it scrambles the brains a bit.
Right.
Well, and also I think it's my friend Mike here. He is the world's biggest Van Helsing fan.
What is Van Helsing again?
It's an action movie from 2004. And I promised him before this I would ask if you've ever seen it, and we're both guessing you probably. I just want to know if you've ever seen it or remember it.
Well, who stars in it?
It's Hugh Jackman.
Yeah. Okay. That rings a bell. I don't think I've seen it though.
You probably won't like it. Most people don't.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know that I would exactly recommend it to anyone for any reason.
Yeah.
I certainly love it. Like, it's very goofy. There's a Dracula and a Frankenstein, but like they're not the Universal Monsters ones because they couldn't get the rights or whatever. So it's like it's the same director as The Mummy, so it's like cartoonish.
The Brendan Fraser one, yeah.
Okay. No, that's how I feel about a lot of movies actually, like the Todd Haynes movies, especially like Happiness and I have the director, right? Happiness and
Todd Solondz.
Todd Solondz, yeah.
Yeah.
And Storytelling, which I love both of those movies, but at the same time, you feel like you need to like,
take a shower.
Trigger warning people.
Yeah. You kind of want to sometimes double feature something like that with some fluff afterwards to give them a soft landing.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
I would literally go to a theater to watch a Van Helsing Happiness double feature.
Yeah, I'll
right. Well,
you
got me curious about this movie, so I'll check it out.
I don't. Yeah, like I said, I'm also not recommend. I think you'd actually get mad at us if you watched it, but
right.
I promise, Mike, I'd bring it up.
Yeah, I feel like probably you won't like it because most people don't, but watch it anyway. I don't know.
Yeah. Tag us.
Why not?
Tag us on Twitter and tell us how much you hated it. Because
all right,
I'll be
sure.
about that.
Yeah, I can do that.
The second thing Mike wanted to talk about was how disgusting touring can be. And I think you have way more insight on this, Mike, than I do. So, because I'm not a musician.
So sure. And Max has certainly more insight than me.
Right, exactly.
Experience. But
you're a musician though, Mike?
Yeah. I'm in 2 bands and I record bands and but none of them are successful, so I still have a day job, so it's not the same.
They're creatively successful. Excuse me, Mike. They're
Let's not be hasty.
I'm a fan. I've been to the shows. They're creatively successful.
Bless you, Bob.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, I mean, touring is disgusting. I mean, it really is. It's and yeah, I mean, there are also all different, levels to touring, and there are bands going out and staying at the Four Seasons every night and stuff like that, and that's probably a lot less disgusting. But at the level we do it, it's weird because we will just kind of, depending on the show, depending on the type of show it is, we'll sometimes be put up in like a super nice hotel and like be really well taken care of. And then the next night we're staying at like the Red Roof Inn, and there's like literally blood and pubic hair on the headboard. But yeah, I mean, it's very much like when you're touring, you kind of go into this like sort of survival mode thing, and things that might offend your pieties in normal life just don't as much, because you're like in this different sort of zone.
Is it almost like camping, like a camping mindset? It's similar to camping minus the nature and the beauty, minus the positives, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's all the survival imperatives and none of the like natural splendor.
Beautifully put. Yeah. One kind of episode that's coming to mind is on a tour that I did just a few years ago with another band that I sometimes do, and we were out with a band called Congos playing in Portland. I forget the name of this venue in Portland. I played it a bunch of times, but there's no bathroom backstage.
Great.
And there was a restaurant next door. They wouldn't let people use the bathroom there. So there was like a supermarket across the street. I really had to take a shit before the show, as you do. Your adrenaline starts to course, and it like your heart rate goes up, your metabolism gets charged.
Yep.
So I went across the street to this grocery store, and they had a bathroom, and there was a guy like nodding out on heroin in the bathroom. And I went into the stall and I took a shit, and then I realized there was no toilet paper in the stall. So I hit up the group text, and I was like, a little help here, guys. Not sure what to do. And they didn't get back to me in a suitable amount of time. It was like, this is a matter of urgency. And so I had to just sort of like shuffle out of the stall past the guy nodding out on heroin to the paper towel dispenser, and then shuffle back into the stall. Yeah, that's a day in the life,
Yeah, it sounds right.
Yeah.
It kind of is very telling too of the quality of that bathroom if it's in a grocery store but also out of toilet paper.
In a grocery store, out of toilet paper. Yeah. Active heroin mainlining going on.
Right.
Yeah.
And you always have to walk down that hall where like the employees have to eat and stuff. It's always like that. Really, the grocery store bathrooms. Yeah.
It has that smell of ice that has had fish on it.
Oh, totally. It's very distinct.
Yeah.
Watered down fish. Yes.
It really says something about band scumbags that like Bob is like, my God, and it's a grocery store that's out of toilet paper, and I'm over here like, yep, it's broken. There's a heroin addict. There's nothing in the venue. This all sounds normal. That's right. That's bathrooms in general, as far as I know.
To be fair, I have gone to the bathroom on a boardwalk before, which, it's very similar to that, but
that's not
right. Yeah, I can imagine.
All right, Max, what is the scariest, sketchiest bathroom that you've had to use on tour?
Oh man. God, that's a good question. I mean, they all sort of run together, and I'd say, most of them when you're playing clubs are 2 thumbs down, not good. I remember, I've got one for you, actually. This is going to end up being a very like scatological, if that's the word.
Great.
It's
podcast.
Great. Very welcome here.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah, we were on like a 3-day drive in a bus, nonstop driving day and night. Like it must have been like cross country or something to get to a show that was way outside of the normal routing for the tour. I don't really remember. But yeah, we stopped at a truck stop. I had to take a shit. Went into the bathrooms, and the stalls were like with these weird stalls where the walls to the stalls ran all the way up to the ceiling, like they were completely enclosed. It was kind of a high ceiling. It was very ominous, like
almost like a
vibe in
church
there.
ceiling, but with a
It
bathroom.
never occurred to me the amount of headroom would affect my shitting, but now that I'm thinking about it, I'm really disturbed.
You're
was
used
troubling.
to a
It was
confined
from the
space with shitting,
Yeah.
Yeah, no, right at the outset, just upon darkening the door of that bathroom, I was made uncomfortable. And then like they were all locked except for one, and I went in and it was filled with somebody else's shit, like just completely like clogged and filled with, trucker shit. And but I really had to go, bus has to roll soon. We're trying to make this deadline. So I'm like, fuck it. I'm going to like squat and see if I just got to do this, And so I did. And the like velocity, from my shit, like hitting all the other shit in the water, like all the shit that was already in the toilet, like all the trucker shit was splashed back up and just covered me, just like, just like sprayed my ass with its other people's shit. And then
that's a terrifying moment.
Yeah, that was awful.
Yeah.
And then what was more awful was like there's no shower on the tour bus. We've got another like 12 or 16 hours to go or something like that. And and I also have like, I literally have OCD, and it can go to all kinds of fun places. So I was just like, I spent those next like dozen or so hours just extrapolating out all of the possible worst case scenarios for like disease contraction and stuff like that.
That's terrifying. Yeah.
You didn't Google it or anything. Did you have that capability? Because that can always be a rabbit hole.
That's always a bad idea.
Never
always
do that.
Yeah. And this was pre-Google. This would have been, I don't know if it was pre-Google, but it was, I didn't have the capability at the time.
It's for the best.
Thankfully. Yeah.
Spend hours looking up parasites and human bacteria and shit.
Yeah.
The first real tour I ever did, I had the same kind of situation where I had to shit onto a pile of accrued shit in a bathroom in Savannah, Georgia. And that is terrifying. Like I legit had hands up on the top of the stall trying to do the, what's like the rings.
Trying to hover, right?
Yeah. Because otherwise it's like I'm going to end up with a puddle of just like collectivized communist trucker shit in the bottom of my jeans. And we still have 8 hours to get to fucking Florida.
Yeah, 100%. No, Savannah. I'm glad you brought up Savannah because we had a good moment there as well. It's not a shit story, but
pass.
Yeah, we don't want to.
Yeah, hard pass. Not interested.
Sorry, continue.
This was when we were out with Third Eye Blind, and this woman, actually it wasn't the woman that came up to us, it was like this young girl came up to us and was like, I'm here with someone who's very, very important, and she'd like to have a word with you guys if that's okay with you. And this girl seemed reasonable. Like I don't know. There the alarms weren't going off in my head or anything like that. Let's put it that way. And so I'm like, sure. And so she introduces me to this woman who's standing a few feet behind her, brings her up. And I forget what her name was, but she introduced me. And then the woman launched into this diatribe about how she gave birth to the Christ figure, and his name is Frederick, and she's like a divine mother kind of thing, and handed me this pamphlet, this stack of papers about this thick. And at that point I was just trying to extricate myself as quickly as possible from the conversation, but I took
that's when you say you have to shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
I promise you they don't care though.
What's that?
You could say it to them. I've been in these kind of conversations.
Oh, they don't.
They don't let up, right?
It doesn't help. There's only one option, and that is to just turn around and walk away.
Oh yeah, you have to just straight up run. There's nothing else.
You just have to be rude. Yeah. So I took the packet into the dressing room and started to kind of leaf through it, and it was like this collection of like scrawled, almost illegibly, poetry, newspaper clippings, real psycho shit. And I remember one of the poems, at least part of it was, what was it? Something about angel wings ripped and torn. I don't know. Anyway.
These pamphlets were printed out, or they were handwritten individually?
They were printed out.
Okay.
Beautiful.
They were printed out like there had been copies made. This wasn't the original. It's too important.
Thousands and thousands of copies.
Right, you're on the third pressing of this pamphlet.
Yeah, exactly right. And so that was the whole thing was very Savannah-esque,
Yeah.
It felt appropriate to the region.
There is a certain kind, like every town has, or at least every region maybe, you get to the southern East Coast versus the northern East Coast, like the weirdness is different. But Savannah's got a certain kind of weirdness that even you don't find it even over in Atlanta. Like Savannah's, I like Savannah.
Totally.
Weird.
I like Savannah too. It's beautiful, but yeah, it's in the air,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Is that the weirdest road interaction that you're comfortable talking about, or can you top it with more weirder shit?
If you want to talk about uncomfortable stuff too.
Sure.
Oh yeah, you can say whatever you want. I just don't want
please.
We did have a fan who was older than like our normal fans were at the time by maybe orders of magnitude. And she came to a lot of shows, always like bearing gifts. One time when she came to a show, showed us photographs of her. These are like not iPhone photos. This is like actually, developed film.
Like boudoir photos, right? Like real photography.
Yeah. Of her driving around in her like Mustang convertible with 3 life-size dolls of us that she'd made. So there was like one in the shotgun seat and 2 in the back. And she was like, yeah, I drive around. I made these life-size dolls of you guys and I drive around. This is how I drive around. And the same woman, at a show in, I think it was Hershey, Pennsylvania, she hired one of those airplanes that drag letters behind it.
Yeah.
Oh.
So she must have had like, money wasn't an issue for her or something, I guess. Because I can't imagine that's really cheap. But I forget exactly what it said. Something like "I love Eve6" or something like that. In the air.
That is intense.
Yeah.
Did you meet the woman that paid for that, or did you see it in the air, or were you told that it happened?
Met the woman and she told us.
So you didn't actually see it. She just told you she did it.
I you know what? I don't remember. I do feel like I have a memory of actually seeing it, but again, she could have showed me a photo or something. We're talking 20 years ago.
It's just funny to be like, really look what I paid to do, and you did.
And you didn't even experience it.
You didn't even experience it. Just here, I did this, just so you know.
Yeah.
I guess there's always that pressure too, and we're confronted with that. Like, what do they want from me right now? That, okay, you spent thousands of dollars for a plane.
Right.
Please walk away from me.
Right. Is there? Yeah. That's always a little weird. I mean, yeah.
What's the expectation?
Yeah. Right. I don't think I don't really have that thing, I guess, where I feel like, I mean, obviously, like I'm grateful for the fans that we have, especially at this point in time, like, like for sure, and have deep sentiment towards them and all that. But at the same time, I don't feel like, I don't know, stuff that, how do I put this? I don't feel a responsibility, I guess, beyond being a human being and, being friendly or whatever. If any sort of boundaries get crossed or whatever, I'm very comfortable just being like,
as you should. I mean, you don't owe someone just because someone spent $1,000 to make a voodoo doll of your friends, and you don't have to have tea at their house. Right. Or I'm assuming they would want more than that if you give them an inch.
True.
Eventually, then you're chained up in a box.
Yeah, right. That's right.
My assumption,
they pull out a blender,
Oh yeah.
Right.
My assumption would be that maybe some of that comes because I think we're approximately the same age. I'm 40 and you're what, like?
I'm 42.
Yeah. I'm 39. So.
And okay.
We're hovering.
Like me. We're real into like Screeching Weasel and Jawbreaker and a bunch of like that kind of punk rock and indie rock stuff that was going on then. Which is very much a different vibe of, being able to say, we're all just people in this room, so like just talk to me like a normal person.
100%. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's not that that pedestal thing or whatever. And with a lot of those punk bands, Screeching Weasel, I mean, take your pick. I mean, it's part of the ethos, like to actually have what I think is sort of a healthy, almost antagonistic relationship with an audience, because the opposite of that, I think is kind of problematic. Like, just the artist fan relationship can get very weird. So I think it's like tearing that whole facade down as a part of the performance, I think is actually really, really cool and more sane.
No, yeah, totally.
Yeah, it's certainly, I think, better for the person on the talking side of the microphone, right? For a band to not have, it gets rid of, to use the word you used before, expectations. It gets rid of a certain set of expectations and brings 100%. It back to like a grounded level.
Right, you're setting the precedent. Yeah.
And also, you have that. Well, I mean, especially now, you kind of have that force field now of using your sense of humor, which is, I think that's why you had sort of this new resurgence on Twitter with the way you've interacted with fans. Kind of with a slight bit of self-depreciation and awareness too. Like, it keeps them in check. I think if they approached you now, right? Like they kind of get that you.
Yeah, well, I think that's the thing. I mean, look, it's like I'm being honest about that stuff, but it also kind of conveniently allows me get away with, lobbing, water balloons over the ivory walls.
Yeah, right.
Like, yeah. I think, but I do think you're right. It's like, if it's sort of a disarming background position to have, if when people were to clap back at me or something, or it's like the guy from Third Eye Blind was like, "You suck," I would be like, "I know," or something. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah.
Really,
you run with the joke.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, you calling it like, you calling it Heart in a Blender song, just that alone gives me a sense of the humor. You know what I mean? That
I legitimately, when I started seeing that on Twitter, was the moment I went like, oh wait, I feel like I probably could hang out with this dude. Like,
yeah.
There was a real,
honestly, that's why I wanted to ask you to do this, because that made me laugh.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah. No, totally. I mean, and
I'll be honest, I actually didn't remember the real title of the song.
The real title of the song isn't memorable at all. It's funny because the original title for the song was Goiter, because remember,
this is like,
this is good. This is in like the 90s when you could name a song whatever the fuck you want. It didn't have to be a lyric from the chorus or whatever, at least in the music that we were listening to and thought was interesting. But our A&R guy was like, you can't call this fucking song Goiter. And I was like, well, I mean, why not?
Right.
I was like, look at Nirvana. They call their songs all kinds of shit. Like, we're like Nirvana, right? And
I did the same thing in that, at that age. Though, it was like, no, I'm not going to call it the obvious name you would call it from the chorus. Why would I want people to ever be able to find the song? It's a weird
way.
Be
to difficult. You got to be.
But like, I 100% get that. Now, was that a conscious thing on your part where you're like, no, I'm not going to call it fucking Heart in a Blender. I don't care if that's the tag, or was that not even on your mind? It was just, I don't know. I'll call it.
Is the joke now that's what it stuck with the public, like the Heart in the Blender lyric? Like you know what I mean? Like, it turns out that's how people identify with the song.
No, totally. I mean, at the time too, you didn't really need to consider the concept of like discovery or people needing to find, because it was just, the song was either going to be served to you fucking 100 times a week on a radio station and MTV, or it wasn't going to be. And so whether you knew the title or not didn't really matter. There was that too. But I think the A&R guy suggested Inside Out. I was like, fine, I don't really care. And then, but my mom always called it the Heart in a Blender song, like from the get-go, before it was ever recorded, and she just heard me like playing it in my bedroom. She'd call it the Heart in a Blender song. So, and I always thought that was funny and cute, and even funnier and cuter to state publicly, because it's like, I'm obviously signaling that song and whatever perceptions of the band are not sacrosanct at all to me. So
right.
I think that was its sort of joke utility or whatever.
Sure, but it also, besides the joke, I think it legitimately, there's a genuine thing there that I think people pick up on, which is nice.
Well, it's a very identifiable, guileless lyric. It stood out for a reason. So, can get a lot of mileage there.
And it feels good to say. Like, I know I believe you're the kind of dude who, like me, working on a song, it all starts out with just like, a dandelion, and then like 100%. You gotta fill in, and you gotta backfill. But like, the like, it fucking feels great. So, it feels great. No, 100%. I mean, like, the first, and that is the way I write. Yeah. The first time I heard that song, I remember being like, yep, that's a good one. Tender Heart in a Blender, feels great. That's a solid song. Now those with you, do lyrics when you're working on that process, the lyrics pop in like you're and a water balloon full of sea lions, and then you're like, well, fuck, now I'm stuck with that line. I got to figure out how to work that in, or do they not stick?
You got to work backwards to sea lions in a water balloon.
Well, I usually, when I'm humming along, like in the writing process, trying to figure out what melody and phrase is going to be, the phonetic sounds that I make with my mouth when I'm making the gibberish usually are whatever those natural sounds kind of are, is usually what kind of fits best or feels the most right.
Yeah.
At least in the beginning, before I have no idea what I'm saying or anything. So sometimes I will just be going for phonetics and actually get a lyric. Sometimes I'll have the phonetics and then, try to put in a lyric that has those phonetics.
Yeah.
But yeah, the lyrics always come, not always, but most often come second.
When you have to change the phonetics for some reason, do you fight that? Do you fucking hate that? You're like, no, it's supposed to be an O sound here, but man, the line I've got with an E is really good.
Well, I always sacrifice the good line for sound, like always, because yeah, and if I can't find something to put in that feels phonetically right, then I just don't, or whatever, and it's next song. So
you'll just straight up like move on and be like, nah, if I can't get the thing to feel right, I'll come back to
yeah, right. Especially now, I think when I was writing those first 3 records, I was so young and stuff, I would just cram whatever the fuck in there. I think my instinct was still phonetics first, but if it doesn't feel right, even if a lyric seems on its face to be good or something or clever, then it's just not right, because it's music, you know what I mean? It's not.
Oh, absolutely. The music of the words has to work first and foremost, because it's not, the text is almost tertiary. Like,
totally.
Mostly don't even read the lyrics. And like I've heard you say a similar sort of thing. You're like, you need to like them to say them, but like you're also aware that like, it's about what it sounds like.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's about what it sounds like. And I
think
where
the love comes from. I mean, it doesn't sound good, right?
Yep.
I think it's like the lyric needs to, it can't just be a random smattering of sounds, obviously. Like it needs to mean something to the person like performing the vocal. I think also, in order to sound good, I think that's part of it, but I don't need to know what you're talking about. Like, I just need to kind of know that you care about what you're saying and kind of mean it on some level. In most cases, I prefer not to know what a song is about, because that tends to, take you out of the dream or whatever.
It's like folk music or something, right?
Yeah. Which has its place too.
Yeah, not to insult folk music.
Yeah. But yeah.
Now that's an interesting thing, than not necessarily knowing what the songs are about. Are there songs that still you have no idea? Like, there's a story there maybe, and you've had people come up to you and say like, "Oh, I love that song. It's about et cetera," but like you have no idea what you're talking about. You sing the song, you wrote it, you love it, but you have no idea what the fuck you're trying to say. Do you have
well, I was referring more to like listening as a fan, like what.
Oh, okay.
But with my own stuff, I mean, usually, even if it's not totally clear to me at the moment of, conceiving the thing, like more is revealed or whatever. It's like you have a moment with your subconscious and you kind of see that what was going on a little bit, and even ascribe meaning to it. But yeah, I mean, and then there's also
good.
Then there's also songs that I know in some sense are about something, but it would be a weird kind of level confusion to try to articulate that, you know?
Yep.
Have you ever had a song like egregiously misunderstood, even though you have a loose parameter? It's still like the fans terribly did not get it to the point it aggravated you?
Yeah, well, it hasn't really aggravated me, but it is definitely a case of that. Is the song that was a hit off our second record, which was just straight to pop radio song. It didn't even go to rock or anything like that, which is why people usually think of Eve6 as either being the Here's to the Night band or the Heart in a Blender band, and don't realize like we did both songs.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I mean we were totally participants in the PSYOP because we made a video for it. That was very much waxing nostalgia about, like, you know, high school scene or whatever. So you know, people, and then the song became like this graduation song. So, and it's not about obviously that at all, but I guess it's not obvious because people think it's about that. But you know, it was about as predictable and ununique a topic for a rock band as possible, which is just like a one night stand on the road. and it became a graduation song.
Well, I was going to say too, kind of on that subject, and I promise I'm not trying to bring it back to movies constantly.
Oh, that's all right. I'm
But
happy to talk about movies.
With the kind of the, you know, the tone and vibe of your band, obviously, seemingly, like you're saying, it's always kind of been in question, I guess, by several different parties. The movies that your music has been in are a weird collection of films. I don't know if you even remember all of them, but I actually made a list. It's short, but it's an odd collection of movies. It's like Can't Hardly Wait, obviously, is the big one.
Yeah.
Dead Man on Campus, Teaching Miss Tingle, Out Cold.
What was the second one?
Dead Man on Campus.
Oh shit!
If you remember that, I actually watched that not long ago. Teaching Miss Tingle, Out Cold, The New Guy, and The Prince and Me. You've got a thriller, you got some comedies, and you got some tween stuff in there.
I don't even know The Prince and Me.
It's 2000. I think it's a 2006 movie. What I forget the actress's name, but it's for like teenagers. It's not a comedy. It's like a fairy tale.
I just found a check that someone owes to Max.
Yeah, seriously.
That's right.
Yeah, seriously.
Where's my money? That one, and then the Dead Man on Campus rings a bell, but I'm kind of confusing that with Teaching Mrs. Tingle, which I definitely saw. Teaching Mrs. Tingle was directed by Kevin Williamson.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I saw that movie once, and it was with Quentin Tarantino in his home movie theater.
What the fuck?
Okay. Twist.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember the exact circumstances here. A friend of mine's sister was dating him. He was friends with Kevin Williamson, had the movie. We like went out to dinner, like we went out to sushi together. And then we went back to his house. And I remember before he played the movie, he played like a bunch of just random clips of stuff that I think he'd kind of cut together, some weird like exploitation stuff. I mean, all very Quentin-y kind of shit.
Like 70s,
and then
60s and 70s type stuff.
Yeah. And then we watched Teaching Mrs. Tingle, and my girlfriend at the time was really drunk and like spilled a glass of red wine all over the movie theater seat. I remember being mortified about that. But yeah, so Teaching Mrs. Tingle, there's like, we're talking about, don't they like murder a teacher or something? I don't know.
I believe so. I haven't seen Teaching Miss Tingle since release, and I be honest, I don't remember much about it.
So my wires are crossing with that and Dead Man on Campus.
Dead Man on Campus
is a very
is
similar theme.
No, Dead Man on Campus is a more of a silly comedy about suicide on college campus.
Oh, okay.
Where
Okay.
two guys are failing their grades, and they learn that if somebody in your like fraternity kills themselves, everyone gets straight A's.
Okay.
So
okay.
it's them trying to find someone that is completely suicidal to then move into their house. It's pretty dark. It's kind of been buried, like the studios.
Yeah.
It's people have been embarrassed that they made it, but it's got a cult following.
All right.
Yeah. If you ever get a chance to rewatch it, you might actually dig it because it's kind of like this shouldn't have been made.
Shouldn't have been made. Yeah. Yeah, I could get into that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never saw Out Cold. I definitely saw Can't Hardly Wait. Definitely saw Teaching Mrs. Tingle.
What are your go-to movie genres? What stuff do you?
Yeah, what do you actually like? Instead of we pushed action on you.
Yeah.
I really do love thing, like, which I guess The Silence of the Lambs fits there more than it does like horror to me or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't really like comedies. Like, I really do have to have my arm twisted to watch a comedy, and I don't normally find them funny. That's just not really my thing.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I also don't like the new genre of horror. Really, isn't really interesting to me.
Are you talking like more like the prestigious bent of horror, like the A24 stuff? Like
I don't even know what that is. I guess I'm talking about
like Midsommar or The Witch, or you mean like I'm trying to think what you meant by that.
I haven't seen Midsommar. I have a feeling I might like it. I'm not talking about that kind of thing.
Okay,
more like just like the super fast cut / gore shit. I don't know. Not really into that.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a big Lynch fan. I had a moment a few years ago where I was with my ex, and we were driving down the street, and we passed this guy, and my ex was like, "Did you see that guy?" And I said, "No." She's like, "Turn around, like go around the block." So we did. We circled around the block and came back around, and there's this guy standing on the corner, and he had so much metal in his face that you couldn't see skin. It wasn't piercing. I guess it was technically, but his face was metal. It was like he'd driven fucking steel through every, you could sort of see a little bit of skin around his eyes. And the feeling that I had seeing this guy, even though he doesn't resemble this person, physically, was the moment in Mulholland Drive where you see the hobo behind the dumpster.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
It struck a very similar chord of that. Like, I don't know what to name this. I don't know what this is. It's deeply scary. I'm not totally sure why. Like all of that stuff that Lynch does, like that's his thing. And I had seen Mulholland Drive, so I was like, I need to watch Mulholland Drive again, which I did. I watched Mulholland Drive again right away. And then I got into this Lynch thing where I was just watching his movies all the time. But I still haven't seen Inland Empire, or there's a couple I haven't seen just because at the time they weren't available. But I've seen most of them. And just recently watched Twin Peaks: The Return, which blew my mind. So I guess, yeah, sort of similar. I respond similarly to films as I do to music, where I kind of like people who can play really effectively with like abstraction and not kind of serve stuff up in a way that is like pleasantly confusing and stuff. That's kind of where my taste goes.
And you always get the sense with like Lynch that you know he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
Even if I don't know what he's doing, I'm sure that he does.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's so important. It's like, because without that, there's like no trust or something. Like,
Right.
yeah, you know that he's laboring over this and that everything is intentional. And you also know you may not ever really completely understand what that is. And that just mirrors living. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, so
what's cool too is like during the pandemic, two of the things I've paid attention to online have been your Twitter account and David Lynch's weather updates every day, which I feel kind of have there's like kinship there a bit because no one was expecting that, and it's very weird. It's very nothing of him just to look out the window and then tell you the news, the weather, and it's over. Why is he doing this? That's what
I think he's just one of those people who I don't know. I think he has such a deep understanding of human psychology and a deep reservoir of joy too. I mean, I know a lot of his shit is really dark, but I do think he's dispositionally generous. Like, I think he's like in some ways like an old school entertainer. And yeah, he knows he's deeply aware of the illusory nature of things, of everything, and finds, I think, sees both the extreme sadness and darkness and joy and levity in that. And that's his thing.
Yeah.
And also there's like he's also I feel like he's making fun of me sometimes when I'm watching stuff. I like that.
He's a troll. I think a lot of what he's doing is
a troll. Like, the best example,
as great artists should be, right?
Right.
Like,
exactly. Yeah.
That's what I mean. That's just a new word for provocateur. You know?
I don't know if you even have Netflix, or if you've seen this even, Mike, but if he made a short film for Netflix called "What Did Jack Do?"
Yeah, it's awesome.
Huh.
It's absolutely amazing. You need to watch. It's a short film, so it's not that long of a watch, but like people went to go watch it and they were expecting something like Blue Velvet or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's literally 25 minutes of him talking to a monkey.
And it's the funniest thing he's ever done.
It's hilarious. And it's like he did it at home. So the monkey's mouth is like Conan O'Brien cut out, and there's just his mouth in the monkey's mouth, and it's him talking
incredible.
to himself as a monkey.
Amazing. I'll absolutely
right. And it was not what people wanted from that, and it's hilarious.
And right.
And honestly,
Right. And the trick is the real genius comes in when you can give people something that they don't want or don't think they want, and have them actually enjoy it. Because, there's a reason why artists do get typecast and stuck in a thing. They try to do something else, and their history's working against them, but also maybe the thing they're doing just isn't that compelling. With Lynch, it's like he's able to just absolutely destroy expectations and whatever perception of him you might have, but do it in a way that is still very entertaining.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it has both things. It's not just tearing it down. It's tearing it down, and you really enjoy this. You really enjoy watching this being turned out.
And I always say, like, when it comes to Lynch too, any of his critics, like invariably once every couple months you have one of your friends on your Facebook feed or Twitter or something to say, if he just stuff doesn't make sense, it sucks. But how do you explain A Straight Story or Elephant Man?
Yeah.
Those are two movies. They're not
exactly.
They're not Lynchian. They're extremely well made.
Yeah.
He can do it. He can make
right. Just
like that.
Like any right. In order to
subvert it, he needs to know how to do it.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna say. Right. If you can't, if you're gonna deconstruct it, you need to know how to fucking construct it first. Otherwise you're just kind of JOing.
Right.
And I think for at least for me, certainly, some of my favorite shit is stuff like that, where it seems completely insane. It's completely weird. You have no idea what's going on, and they take a moment. It's not like winking at the camera or whatever, but there's a moment where something happens and they go, "Oh, by the way, I know exactly what the fuck I'm doing and have known the whole time."
Right,
100%.
That is the most fun thing. You go like, "Oh, this is not just a psychopath. This is a completely in control, like
very sane." Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like you
totally.
watching this is the art.
Yeah,
you see,
he does that thing where he gives you absolutely none of what you asked for, and it's entirely satisfying. You're like, "Oh, this is. I didn't realize this is the thing I actually wanted. Thank you."
Yeah, exactly.
Rare trick.
And that's probably where most
people
disconnect from him, probably because they're used to getting what they're asking for, I guess. I mean, not that I'm saying that's bad completely, because I enjoy movies like that, but
I do too. Like, but they're used to being, especially now with the way Netflix rolls out shows and stuff like that, where it's like you really are being served up very clear ideology, very clear. This is what your takeaway ought to be. Not just that, but if it isn't, you're morally suspect. You know what I mean?
Right.
But like, whereas
it's a lot of reviewing reviews.
Yeah. Lynch, people like that, like real auteurs aren't playing that game. You know, that's not what they're doing.
He's kind of above criticism in a healthy way.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree, because any criticism of him works as validation. He's just got it all figured out, you know?
Right.
Yeah. He's not a dude who's going to lead you from A to B to C to. He's not even going from A to L. He's like, "Hey, I made up some characters. Is that even an alphabet? Doesn't matter. They look awesome. By the way,
symbols anyway, man.
See if you can understand this language I wrote in my basement."
Yeah, right.
Right.
I made up Elvish. It works as a language. You can't read it. Doesn't matter.
But then again, you know, even with that, I'd argue like you can watch something like Blue Velvet and the script on the surface does make sense. It's not like it doesn't make sense. You know what I mean? Like people, it's not like it's hard to really give it a little bit of brain power to understand what's going on.
Yeah, and it's been a long time since I saw Blue Velvet, but
got to rewatch that.
I know I got to
so incredible.
I got to revisit that fucking nightmare.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do think. I mean, some of his stuff does have more trackable plot, and some stuff like Lost Highway and Mulholland Drive really are just so open to interpretation, as to be not. I mean, they're not plot movies; they're experiential. You know, it's about just the experience of having your subconscious, activated.
Yeah, the plot's a delivery system for what the movie's actually trying to do. It's the bread for the sandwich.
I've read several theories about what exactly happens in like the last half of Mulholland Drive, and it's funny when you can read like multiple theories and they all seem extremely viable. Like, you know what I mean? You read them, you're like, maybe this guy has a point, or this one sounds real. They all sound good because it's open and it works multiple ways.
And seeing Twin Peaks, The Return, really allows you into, I feel like, a model of Lynch's mind that his intention for a movie like Mulholland Drive, could be schismed. Like it could be two or more things at once, of those theories that are intentional. You know what I mean?
Like he's making two films at once at the same time, overlapping each other. Yeah.
It was supposed to be a series originally, if I remember.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It was,
and then he ended up condensing it down to a movie because, funding and how Hollywood works, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that's a very valid observation.
Yeah.
You haven't seen Inland Empire yet, right?
I haven't. It wasn't available anywhere a few years ago, so I need to figure that out.
It's been a couple years for me.
Yeah, it's one of the Lynchiest things. Like Lost Highway, I saw in high school, and I felt like I understood what the story was. Mulholland Drive, 2 or 3 times through, I was like, all right, I kind of got a grasp on that. Inland Empire probably 5-6 times. I watched, and it's like a 3-hour movie, and it was several times where I went, okay, maybe I kind of get it, and then I started like looking up theories.
But the point is, you keep watching it.
Exactly.
You want to keep
That's
going. You know,
it keeps working, and I don't know why the fuck it works, but this weird square wheel keeps rolling, and I gotta fucking know why.
It's fun to be confused, and it's fun to want to know why, and it's fun to have that desire dashed.
Right.
You know,
and I feel like that's the point. A lot of the times, that's what people struggle with. They're like, "But what's the answer?" It's like, no. The point is that there's no answer. You put these pieces together, and it still never makes a picture out of this puzzle. But every piece put together isn't that neat, and then people flip the table over.
And then
which is what makes it honest. Yeah.
Right. And then you got this guy that makes stuff that is that confusing and rich, and then he'll go and do stuff like he'll be the bartender on the Cleveland show.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like that's like a curveball from his career that the guy is there's something like he's a genius.
Yeah.
Why would he say yes to that if it didn't mean something to him? You know what I mean? Like I don't know if I don't know if you know what the Cleveland show is. I didn't ask.
I don't know what it is.
It was it's a Family Guy spinoff.
Oh, sure. Cleveland.
David Lynch was a regular on a Family Guy spinoff.
Yeah, it's incredible. Yeah.
Just for him to say yes to that is a troll within itself.
Yeah, I mean, I think he both takes his art extremely seriously and at the same time not at all. He's like has that, he has both the productive form of not caring and the productive form of caring, both of those down,
I feel like that's such a hard balance to get, where you can invest 100% into making the thing and getting the details right and knowing what it is and all that, and then you let it loose and immediately couldn't give less of a fuck how anyone perceives it. You get it or don't, it's fine. It's fine. That's a hard split to make, I think.
But please watch What Did Jack Do, Max.
I will.
I am so interested to hear your take on that.
I will, absolutely.
Because I know friends who watched it and literally got mad.
Dude, I'll watch it tonight.
Oh, amazing. It's so good. I was laughing the entire way through. But I had friends who literally were like, this is the worst thing he's ever done. And I was like, that's why it's the best.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why it's the best. Yeah. It's exactly what you didn't want him to do.
And yet it's still 100% a David Lynch thing, like identifiably, but it's unlike other shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. All hell.
Yeah, well, I think that this has been a better movie conversation than the action movie thing ever could have been. We talked about David Lynch. Yeah.
Wait, real quick, Max, what is your favorite David Lynch movie? Ooh.
It's a hard question.
Yeah. Lost Highway is the first one I ever saw, and it definitely made an indelible impression on my mind. Just the stuff of nightmares.
Yep.
And I live in LA, so I've seen Robert Blake out and about. Like I saw him at Whole Foods in a cowboy hat. Picking up some organic produce.
It's give me a panic attack if I saw the fucking Lost Highway guy just like goes.
Yeah.
Like, please don't make me call my house.
He's like wearing sandals,
Yeah.
He just
he was ripped, like, first of all. And he was wearing like a very tight white t-shirt and black jeans and a cowboy hat. He looks like Travis Tritt or something. He looks like a 90s country star. But with that unmistakable fucking drawn and hollow, beady-eyed face.
Good God.
But yeah, so Mulholland Drive is the one I've seen the most. I've maybe seen that like 3 or 4 times. Blue Velvet, I've only seen once, and when I was watching it, I'm pretty sure I remember thinking, okay, this is the master. Like this is, so I guess it's tough for me to pick a favorite.
That would be mine.
Blue Velvet.
Yeah, that would be mine. Followed by maybe Elephant Man.
Yeah, Elephant Man was fucking spectacular too. But even Twin Peaks: The Return, I feel like fits in. Twin Peaks, the show, the original, which, even though I fucking love it, it very much feels like television because it's playing with and exposing and pissing on a lot of those tropes, which is fun and stuff. But like Twin Peaks: The Return feels like cinema. Like it feels like a long, protracted film. And I just absolutely fucking loved that. So that's up there in the canon for me too.
I whenever I see like a favorite David Lynch list, they always just count Twin Peaks as a movie.
Yeah.
I feel like his fans don't they don't treat it like it's a series. It's just a very long movie. So
totally.
The Return kind of, to use a weird parlance, it feels like David Lynch doing the gritty David Lynch reboot of Twin Peaks, the show, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's fucking dark. I mean, not that the original Twin Peaks wasn't, but the original Twin Peaks had more like little, I mean, just
it
even
existed in like a world of sitcom levity as much as
exactly.
Yeah.
It had the coffee and pie was used more and differently, like to kind of string along the normie, whereas Twin Peaks: The Return was like fuck the normie. Like like we're but yeah, no, I'm glad we talked about Lynch too. Shit, this has been a great combo.
I might actually have to go and do a Lynch marathon myself now.
Me too, man. Me too.
Just cause.
And I'm gonna put in Lost Highway when we get off of this. I saw that in theaters when it first came out, and that was my first exposure to David Lynch. I just knew it had a cool soundtrack, right? And I forgot, I was 17, 16 maybe, went to the little artsy theater nearby in like my Rancid t-shirt. And had no idea.
Did you have that Rancid CD they always gave out at carnivals? Remember that?
Oh God.
I have like a stack of Rancid CDs. Nothing against Rancid at all, but
they gave them out at carnivals?
Yes, I don't know. Maybe it was a Maryland thing, but I won a lot of Rancid CDs at the boardwalk and at carnivals. They had them as prizes. I don't know why.
Wow, that's a crazy like record company gimmick for a punk band.
It might have been.
They had a real street team situation going on for like "And Life Won't Wait." I think one of those records. So
it was a black CD
everywhere.
I remember that.
Out Come the Wolves. CD.
Yeah,
Out Come the Wolves. Yeah,
but I have like 4 or 5 copies still somewhere. Nothing against Rancid at all.
I mean, great fucking band. I kind of fell off of Rancid with Out Come the Wolves, but like the record with the gun on it and Let's Go were a couple of my favorites in high school. That's for sure.
There's another self-titled album after and Out Come the Wolves. Like there's the one with the gun, and they have another self-titled album.
Okay.
And the self-titled album is fucking awesome. There's like one weak song on it, and the rest of it is just all killer, no filler. And the rest of their records are absolutely not worth your time, I'm sorry to say.
Okay.
Right to fall off after Out Come the Wolves. But yo, that second self-titled record, woo!
Yeah, man. So goddamn good.
I've heard, I think only that one I got for free.
Yeah.
It was good though. I used to listen to it all the time.
First 3 Rancid records are rock solid.
Yeah, there's a song on that first one that I feel like actually could have been if they'd done like the Welcome to Paradise kind of re-record thing or whatever, or 21st Century Digital Boy, how Bad Religion did the re-record of that for their major label thing. Could have been a hit. The Out of My Mind. It was like the slowest tempo song on the record. Got a lot of people telling me I'm out of my mind.
Yep. That song with beefed up production, to use the worst way to describe it, right? Yeah, that could have been a radio hit for sure.
100%.
Absolutely. There's so many of their songs where there's that dude is such a ridiculously good songwriter, and it's under that like that cartoon animal with a head injury voice.
Yeah, it's the best. 100%. Yeah, it's the best. I mean, like, honestly, like in the top, just talking about like identifiable rock and roll voices, like I mean, he's very Shane MacGowan. Like if you kind of think about it, like there's definitely sort of that every single word is just thrown away, but it's like it's not even intentional. It's just the way his fucking mouth is shaped or something.
Yeah. Well, and it's the same thing, I would assume, where he figures out, like, "Nut sounds good when I go, yeah, that's all."
Yeah.
Like, it fucking sounds great. Do I know what he's saying half the time? No, doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
You can
100%.
There's songs you could sit down and play on a piano, and they're still good songs.
Totally, dude.
Out of that guy.
Yeah, they had a moment, right? Like I can't remember. I was maybe too young, but they had a moment, right? Like Rancid was.
Oh, they were huge.
Yeah, they were huge
moment, like multi-platinum. Yeah, totally.
And Out Come the Wolves was massive that year.
Massive record.
Fucking massive.
Yeah.
Like I saw them at the Capitol Ballroom in DC on that tour, and it was packed, which at the time is not a normal thing for just a band.
Yeah. They were huge.
Well, I think Max, thanks for doing this. Seriously, this has been really fun.
This has been fucking great. I'm really glad you guys asked.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's gonna make you're gonna have fun with the show description here because it's like
fecal matter,
talking about like literal human shit and David Lynch's catalog.
And MK Ultra, right? It's
MK Ultra. This is everything I like. This is the perfect.
Yeah.
For all those Heart in a Blender fans that are listeners.
That's right.
Yeah. Outside of more tweets, what can people look forward to coming from you?
We have our first record in 12 years coming out. Is it June?
It is.
It is. Yeah.
Today.
Oh, coming out. Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
Hey.
You're back.
I didn't stop recording or didn't.
No, it's still recording. We're still good.
Yeah, first record in like 12 years coming out this month, toward the end of the month. It's called Grim Value. It's a 5-song EP. The single, we're going to put out a single before the EP comes out in just a couple weeks called I Want to Bite Your Face. And yeah, it's a fun one. And then we have a full length recorded as well. So more than 2 months probably won't go by after the release of the EP before we drop another song from the full length record. So yeah, we're planning on basically just doing that, just steady release of singles for the foreseeable future.
Excellent.
Awesome.
Now this new EP, is this my understanding right that you guys recorded it yourself, like your guitar player did a lot of the production?
Yeah, he did all the production. We recorded it, basically all of it in his apartment in downtown LA, and then got a drum room for a day. I recorded all the drums. We did all of it really quickly, and and kind of stuck with that mode for the full length recording too. Although the full length is a little. The EP is very much just like our roots of kind of punk rock, wearing those influences probably for the first time ever on our sleeve. And then the full length gets a little more 60s vibes, a little more like psychedelic or something, but it still has a similar attitude or something like that. But I think it's a little different. So
that's cool. Is this the first time that you guys have recorded yourself this way, outside of maybe doing demos or whatever? Like, is this the first time you've taken on the project of we are intentionally going to make a record ourselves?
Yeah, certainly for Eve6. Yeah, definitely. We were just like, why not? Why don't we just do some shit? Like, who cares? We're not trying to have another hit or anything like that. Like, let's just make some rock. And then the Twitter thing fortuitously happens around kind of that same time. I mean, not totally accidentally. I was like, I did purposefully start going to the Eve6 Twitter to kind of wake up our, small but loyal existing fan base. But then it just ended up turning into something else, which is great.
And if you Google it, I mean, seriously, if you Google like Max Collins Twitter right now, there is like 20 to 30 think pieces about it. Like people
So
like,
funny.
yeah, you woke it up. Seriously.
Oh wait, before we forget, what's the
Yeah.
tell the people the name of the new EP that's coming out.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. It's called Grim Value. You can go to grimvalue.com and we made like 4 different colored vinyl variants. There's one left. It's a limited amount, but there's one left. I think it's like the orange color or something like that. So
Cool.
if you're interested in that, you can get that at grimvalue.com. I think there's some other shit on there too.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to hearing this.
Seriously,
EP.
yeah.
I like the Can We Combine is a cool song, and it's very.
Thanks.
It's definitely the first time I heard it, and this is before I, checked any previous interviews. I'm not gonna act like I didn't do a little bit of research before this.
Yeah. Same.
Right. But like the first time I put it on, I went like, this is like some 4-track punk rock demo shit in like a good way. Like it has that vibe and that energy all over it, and it was very cool. Especially like we're around the same age. It was cool to hear that like, oh, I understood that correctly. Like I understood the intention of what this song was doing. So I'm as a dude who also
absolutely
has his own band, I'm excited to hear this EP.
Yeah, I'll send it to you. I'll send it to Bob right after we're done. I'll send you guys a SoundCloud link.
Oh,
thank you. That's
cool.
amazing.
Yeah.
And I want to say too, Max, if I know you probably get this from every podcast you do, but you're always welcome to come back if you ever want to just bullshit. I'll get Mike back on. We can talk movies. We can talk anything. You're always welcome back because this was a blast.
Yeah, this has been totally fun.
Stories.
Yeah.
What's that?
So we can move on to peeing stories, maybe some vomit.
Yeah, we could do pee and any bodily fluids you like.
Yeah, I mean, this episode has kind of been vomit and piss erasure. So I think we want to make sure we hit all.
We want to be
the
inclusive of the fluids.
Yeah, that's right. No, I'd love to come back on. This has been super fun. I appreciate it, man. Guys.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So,
thank you so much for coming on.
Everyone,
my pleasure.
Grim Value. Everyone get it.
Yeah.
Max, thank you.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it a lot.
Yep.
And I'll send you that record right now.
Yep. And I'll tag you when I post this and everything.
Awesome. I'll share it and do all that.
I appreciate it, man.
Cool. Thank you guys.
Pleasure.
See you later.
Have a good one.
It's a total pleasure.
You too. Thanks, guys.